3, 2,
2,
1. Welcome to the VIP Collective, the COVID-19 Wedding Advice Series. Laura Atendido, we are sitting with today, who is the founder of Laura & Co. Amazing event planning team. And Laura has been on the podcast before. You were season 1.
Season 1.
Episode number 3. So we've heard your story.
And now we're back.
And now we're back. And who knew we'd be back in the middle of a global crisis?
Yeah, this was really unexpected in many ways for so many of us. So
it is. So I appreciate you taking some time in your quarantine days to sit and bring a little bit of information to the audience that's watching, because I think everybody right now is feeling a little out of sorts about what they should be doing, especially if they are planning on their own. So it's not easy to plan a wedding in general, and now we are kind of have a wrench thrown into it. So
true.
We appreciate you coming and sitting. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. When exactly is your first wedding, actually? Let's start there.
Our first weddings this year were to be in April, and we jumped on it quite early on as soon as things kind of started to veer in that direction. In the first kind of second week there, especially first, second week of March, and made the decision with one of our couples to postpone to October. And I think that's kind of domino affected the way we've handled every client since then, is trying to be open and honest and realistic with our clients and saying that we don't have all the answers. And that's so hard for us because usually we do. Usually our clients are calling us to say, what should I do in this situation? And usually we can, pull on like a pocket full of experience. And, if we don't have the answer, we know readily who to speak to get it. But this is such foreign territory for all of us. So I think a lot of our clients are looking for what should we do. And the best advice that we're giving them is, let's set up a plan B if we are in that early kind of spring phase of 2020, to put something in place so that if we do need to make the decision to postpone when that decision time potentially comes, we already have an idea and a plan of what that's going to look like. Because I think for me, and talking to a lot of our clients and a lot of like my industry colleague friends and people in the industry, is the most overwhelming thing for so many people is like, how do I go about doing this? So kind of like our mantra amongst our team has been, let's kind of be proactive. Let's not jump the gun. Like, there's my dog coming in.
Did he open that door?
Oh yeah, he's gonna open the door and come right in. I mean, no one's been happier than the pets lately. That's the only person that's winning in this quarantine is the pets. I think our mantra with the team has tried to be, let's be proactive for the clients that are in that early spring, potentially early summer. And let's try to put a plan B hypothetically in place so that when we're confronted with the decision time or that point where we realize, okay, I think we may have to postpone, at least we know what that looks like. Because I think sometimes the unknown of thinking I have to postpone, now what, is just makes that decision so much more cumbersome. And so I think if we can take the logistical piece away and say to our clients, if we do need to postpone, here's your plan B, then when you have to make the call to say, okay, put that plan into action, you just have to deal with the emotional piece of moving the date. You don't have to deal with that overwhelming sense of, well, what does that even look like? Because we've helped our clients work through that.
Okay.
I mean, for our first April client, everything was changing literally like every 12 hours. There was a different sense of urgency. So even myself, how I felt at the beginning of that discussion with my clients was, let's just be open-minded. Let's just wait to see, how things happen. And my clients were really good at, projecting this is probably going to take, a turn differently, and we should really be proactive. So we started looking at, with the venue and all the vendors, what are our options for postponing? What kind of dates options can we get together to realign? And so when we made the decision to postpone, we knew what date we were going to. We knew which vendors could move to that date, which vendors couldn't, what that would mean for contracts and deposits lost, what other vendors were available to replace. Just so that way the decision, when you have to make it, didn't feel as, hopefully, as overwhelming as opposed to making the decision and then looking at the rollout of it. It was like, let's roll out plan B. Our May clients, we treated it the same way. We put plans in place for, if it's not going to be May, here's the date in September that it could be. Here's the other date in September it could be. Let's line up all of our vendors. Let's look at who can move, who can't. Let's get backup plans, replaced. I mean, that's the crazy thing is, I've lost one vendor for one client, but I've been able to pick them up for another client because you're not going to be able to keep all of your original vendors, unfortunately, just due to the nature of availability. So
my next question was, are some people, if they are postponing, which is going to happen, they are going to have to sacrifice some of who they had originally hired if a date lines up with more of the majority of your vendors than just one or two who may not have that availability, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the unfortunate things, that there's just no way around. I mean, you and I both know that, for so many people in our event industry, we are smaller businesses and we have a limited capacity to what our companies can take on. And so if we're physically already committed to something else that day, it's impossible to duplicate, so that is one of the losses. And I think that's one of the things that's good to look at before you make the decision, so that you have kind of all the card pieces. I mean, we've literally just been creating, simple kind of Google Sheet files for our clients to look at that says, here are all of the dates, here are all of your vendors, and the cells are red or green to show you who can go to this date and who can't. So like very straightforward, we can look visually down every date column and see what are our best options. And if there are financial implications because a company can't move to that date, let's look at what the deposit payments were that are not going to be refunded likely. And let's take a look at, assessing if this date works for everybody but this company and that date works for everybody but that company. Which company do you feel more personally attached to keeping and which one financially is less of a loss to walk away from?
I see. So there's a lot of decisions that are happening, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to consider, but I think having all of that information makes the decision of choosing a new date a little bit easier to make because it's at least informative, right? I mean, nobody wants to be in this position. For us in the event industry, it's devastating. It's not only devastating because so many of us are small businesses, it's devastating because first and foremost, we are so invested in our clients and their stories and, their event days. And it's really hard to watch people that you care about and that you're invested in have to go through this. So nobody wants to be in the position. It's just all we can do is try our best to support each other in the industry and our clients as best we can to have that ending where we know it's going to end in a wedding and a celebration. As I said, for just some of our clients, we need to take the scenic route now to get to that altar.
I feel like the first couple of weeks were very panic driven, right? Because this was all new and this was all happening. And I feel like now we're slowly starting to adjust to what is the actual reality. And I think anyone who is having an event is now, like you said, if they were to make sure they're having a system where they're able to look at their vendors and just take a step back and look at the big picture of it, I think that really helps with them moving forward to plan a postponement into the future. Are you seeing any weekday dates at this point in time, or have you been lucky to get weekends rescheduled?
We've been lucky to get Saturdays, not so much, but Fridays and Sundays. And I mean, but that's kind of customary. We've been seeing a lot more Friday and Sunday weddings just over the years. I think some vendors have, small discounts for Friday, Sunday, but just in general, some people like the idea of a Friday or a Sunday for various personal reasons. We're definitely seeing some Thursdays start to pop up. And I mean, again, I think it's mindset, right? Like even for me, I'm like a Thursday wedding, a Tuesday wedding, but when all is said and done, when that day comes, when it's a beautiful day and you're getting ready, with your bridesmaids and, you're taking photos and you're walking down the aisle, a Tuesday or a Saturday don't feel different. Like the day will be what it's going to be, but it's a hard mindset. I get it, to get around, but that's where I think, the compromise has to be. I mean, no, like I said, nobody wants to be in this position. Nobody more so than, our clients. But again, I think the bigger picture is, as this is going on and as people are seeing, the global issue around the world, I think there's a sense of recognizing that our weddings and our events, they are a piece of just globally how this world is being impacted. So I think people are being a little bit more open to things that maybe they weren't before.
Right.
And for some people, it's like, this is the grid date that lines up. It's a Thursday, but I get to keep all of my vendors. I don't lose any deposits. And, I'm still getting my wedding in before 2020 is done. If indeed we're good to go by then, which I think we're all hoping we will be before end of year, then, then a Thursday or Tuesday is just as good as any Saturday.
Yep. So if someone's getting married in August, do you suggest July and August create at least a backup plan at this point? Is it a safe thing, or are we just kind of waiting through?
So no, our Julys and August are starting to talk about that, and we're starting to look at that. Again, the difficulty that we're starting to see with our July and August, even our September to some extent, is not every vendor, specifically depending on which your venue is open to projecting to look at dates and postponements that far out. Our kind of mindset is that really, 2 months before should really be the cutoff to deciding. It's like, if 8 weeks before the wedding, you don't feel comfortable, we don't feel comfortable moving forward. I think it's good to be respectful of your guests, people who are planning around this, and also just people that are waiting anxiously to see, are they going ahead with it? Are they not? Are they going ahead with it? Are they not? So I think for all of our clients, we're really trying to approach it that by the 2-month mark, we kind of have an idea of what we want to do, yes or no. Some of our clients are starting to, in July and August, explore those plan Bs. But for some of us, like, we're trying to, keep our hopes up, and also know that we can't just sit back and wait. We have to plan like it could be happening, or else we're also not doing that event justice.
Right.
You can't just sit back and wait and put pause on, because we are seeing clients from March and April postponed to August and September, for example. So we have to be proactive and plan. We also have had some July clients who have really been proactive and decided they're going to move completely to next year and just alleviate the stress and worry in their eyes of having to wait it out and just feel like they're postponing outwards.
How do you suggest people should connect with their guests if they are considering a postponement, or if they're in the 8-week mark? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing we're saying to our clients is, look, do we have a wedding website? Because if we've had that for any means, it's a great way of putting out information right away to say there's been an update. Some of our clients have been very hands-on with using their websites to send out electronic communications and save the dates. So that's a good way to send it out. But the other thing that's nice to do is also consider just doing a formal postponement card. And I mean, again, there's so many sad stories about what's happening, but there's also some really great ones. And so many of the Toronto stationery companies have all come up with these amazing ways to help clients communicate with their guests, whether it's, designing complimentary, digital postponement cards that they can send out, or giving, great discounts on print material to send out as well. For some of our clients, who we picked up our invitations 3 weeks ago, knowing that this was coming, just knew that it wasn't the right time to pop them in the mail. And so, offering to do reprints at a very scaled down cost. So I think if you're kind of more like the idea of a traditional presentation, it's nice to put something in the mail and let people formally know. There's a gray area for some of our clients because we already have mailed back RSVPs for, a May date, and now we're switching to a September date. So, you need to gather new RSVPs on that. So whether you want to go, maybe send out a formal postponement card, because in this case, our stationer already has our address list, but maybe what we're going to do now is direct our guests to respond online through an online forum, just to make the response process different. So guests aren't confused if they haven't originally responded and are still holding on to the old card. Do I do the old card or the new card? But there's some people who maybe could come to the spring date that can't come to the fall date, and vice versa. So you have to gather new RSVPs and figure out how you want to gather that. But you also want to think about what's the best way to let guests know. And so sometimes the website's the best place, sending out an electronic notice. whether that's through like a form of like a paperless post or your website that you might be using, or if it's a digital file a stationer's creating, or going the formal route of actually mailing out some print that says, we've made the difficult decision to postpone, but here are the new details.
Okay. And so if there are some of our audience that are watching and they're planning their own wedding, what do you suggest in terms of like priority of vendors that they should start with?
The venue's got to be first, right? Because you can't change the venue. Well, I mean, you obviously could, but for most clients, there's too much money at this point invested into their deposits that you wouldn't want to cancel and walk away. So you want to try to find something that works with their venue. So venue first. If you have a planner, you're likely collaborating equally with your planner, your photo, and your video team. Those are kind of like, we see the next major kind of tier, because for so many people, like I said, for myself, I can't duplicate myself. I mean, we can provide options for our clients within our team. But like yourself, you know that you have a limited capacity of events that you can shoot from a cinematography perspective. So we see venue first, then we see usually photo, video, planner, and then we get into band if you have your band, because that's a huge investment. A DJ is a little bit easier because it's less of an investment. So if you have to switch a DJ, there's not as much of a deposit that would be lost potentially there. So band, and then floral. So it's really kind of those, I would say, are your key ones that most of our clients are trying to protect. So if it means, giving up their hair and beauty team, if it means, the vintage car that they rented isn't available that date, that other car is instead, most clients are really prioritizing the venue, their planner, their photo, their video, their band, and their florist. And advice for couples is like, I was thinking about the other day, and we did a post, and it was like, just at the end of the day, our hearts break for so many people who have been in this situation, but we just kind of take comfort in knowing that like that day is still going to come. And this is like an unforeseen kind of chapter, as we said in the tale, but like their story will still end at the altar, and they will still have that day. It's just going to have taken a bit of a alternative kind of scenic route to get there. And we hope for some couples, this will be a great story in some way, shape, or form to tell their grandkids,
That's what I was going to say.
They went through the pandemic of 2020, and how that affected their lives, and how they had to postpone their story. And I keep thinking myself, like, I know for every single one of our clients who have had to postpone, when I'm there with them on that new date, whenever that new date will be, and I'm watching them say their vows, I will be ugly crying for all of them, because I will feel so happy to know that they finally got that happily ever after that they deserve, that really, that really they had to work for, because this has definitely been a challenge for a lot of couples and a lot of families. So I kind of just take comfort in like, how much sweeter are those vows? Is that kiss? Is that pronouncement? Is that first date? Is that, best man speech? Like, how much sweeter will those moments be when we can all appreciate them differently on the other end of this?
Yeah, I agree. This is uncharted territory, but the speeches that we're going to hear next year or later this year are really going to, and it's nice, from the video side, because we're able to document that, but it is going to be quite the story for the grandkids when it does eventually, when the date does roll around for them.
It's to say like, this actually, we were one of those couples, and that's the thing. I mean, you watch and you see videos on the news, like, this is happening everywhere around the world, so like collectively it's like, there's a lot of love stories that have had a little bit of an insert of COVID-19, but I just, at the end of the day, it's just trying to see the positive, and help and be as supportive as we can to our clients without having every answer,
Yeah, I think a lot of the industry is feeling a lot of empathy for the couples, especially because our industry is quite big. It's small and big at the same time, but when a couple does choose a specific vendor, you feel so grateful and so excited that you were chosen to be a part of their day. So nobody wants to lose that connection with that couple or anything like that. So we definitely feel the empathy from both sides.
I know. I've had a few vendors, begging me, is there any other date you can pick, because we can't move to that date because we're fully booked. And, is there anything else? And as I said, like, it's literally going back to that chart and like following the columns down and looking at what's the best case scenario if not every single box is green down a future date, and having to kind of evaluate and also look at who and I use the word so surface level as replaceable, but also looking at who is replaceable, because if you are going to lose this company, is there somebody else that is available to take their place that you're happy with?
Mm-hmm.
You know, versus I'm going to lose that company. And to be honest, there's nobody else that I would really want besides them, or who else I would consider, because everyone else is already not available that date. So like sometimes you really have to evaluate, like, what are you able to let go of?
Right.
And that's the hardest thing, is that there will be those dates that postpone that are either unlike any date you thought it would be, because your summer wedding is now a winter wedding, or, you know, that company that you were expecting to be able to be there isn't. But like I said, for most of our clients, they're holding on to their core group of, you know, venue planner, photo, video, floral, and their band, if they have a band.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, just because DJ is a little bit less of an investment, well, it's a significantly less of an investment. So if you have to let go of one, you're probably not going to lose your floral designer over your DJ.
Right. Well, these have all been fabulous pieces of advice.
It's nice to see you and have some social interaction. I tell you, like
some virtual interaction.
Yeah, my kids are all like working on Zoom these days, and it's like the new thing. So I'm happy to say, like on Monday, I was like Zooming for dummies, and today I'm like, okay, got another Zoom call. Like, so
well, you said you've spent the last 5 hours in calls today, have you not?
Yeah, we've been on calls. I've been on calls since 10 today, on the hour, every hour.
So this has definitely changed the ball game for you.
Yeah, I think now it's time to take my dog for a walk. So that's my excitement.
I know, it's
like it's time to take the dog, and we're all like, I volunteer as tribute just because you want to get out. But no, listen, like at the end of this, like literally we are all in this together. It's
mm-hmm.
greater than the event industry. It's our entire city. It's our community. It's globally. So just wishing that everybody out there is well and healthy, and please follow the guidelines to not only socially distance, but physically distance. And,
mm-hmm.
I hope all of our viewers are healthy and well. And I know so many of us cannot wait to celebrate with you on the other end of this, whenever that comes.
Agreed.
Hopefully
now, before I let you go though, I need to know what your favorite quarantine activity is.
God. Okay, my favorite quarantine activity has to be my Peloton.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I'm one of those like Peloton junkies, and so you should have asked, because you're like, oh my God, is she doing like a commercial sales pitch for them? But that has been my saving grace, is that we got that over a year ago, and it's so helpful, because like every day, that's how I start my day. And I just, for those like 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour, 40 minutes, I just feel like I'm engaged in a group activity. I may be in my basement, but I'm locked in, and I need that, because I think like by day 9, 10, we were all starting to feel like that itch. So my Peloton and my Zoom calls.
And your Zoom calls.
My Zoom calls that I've been having. We've been setting up like Zoom social nights, and Mike Curringy from 515 taught us yesterday how to like change our virtual background.
Backgrounds?
So,
So cool.
I put my background as Soho House yesterday, and Mike was sitting in D-Bar as he was talking to us. And so he had the background of D-Bar at the Four Seasons. So it was great. But I mean, I think when we all come out of this, we'll all be a little bit changed for the better, hopefully. And I know, so many of us will just say, we're just going to appreciate so many of those things that we kind of just took for granted,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like having somewhere to go with a full tank of gas.
I'm
like, gas needs to stop dropping, because I have a full tank. I have nowhere to go, and the price just keeps going down. So
I know. I'm right there with you. Well, thank you for your time today.
No problem. Be well, everybody.
And
I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Let's cheers.
Okay.
I can't sign off.
Cheers. I can't sign off without a cheers. Cheers. There we go. All right. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay well.